class, this is Alicia Kinder. This is my second video for Dr. Williams' class, the reading class using a literary strategy. And today for my lesson, I chose the graphic organizer, the 5W's Web, right here from Laura Robb's book. And I'm using it in connection with a lesson on really reading historical texts, in particular speeches given at war memorials. And we're going to start with the example using the Gettysburg Address, and then I'll give the students an opportunity to choose a speech that they can use this strategy with. Okay, so let's begin. Hello class. Today we're going to talk about starting to sort of learn how to unpack a historical text. Often when we read things that were written long ago, whether it's like a letter, maybe a newspaper article, a speech, sometimes the sentences are very long. There's phrases and words that are used that we don't really understand. And even the way that people talk, the turns of phrase, the pauses are different from the way that we speak today. But it's still important for us to be able to read those historical documents and understand them. So how can we do it? How can we bust it down like a fraction, as they say? Well, I've got a strategy for you today that we're going to try, and we're going to work through it together. And it's called the 5W's Web. It starts in the middle with an idea. And then around that idea, we're going to use, in this instance, the Gettysburg Address to answer questions. Who is it about? Where is it happening? All these different things. Okay. So just to give you a little bit of historical context, in 1863, Lincoln delivered this speech at Gettysburg, and it was in reference to a dedication to a memorial for the Union soldiers who had died in the Civil War. It's very short, it's easy to read. We're going to skip ahead and assume that the class has read it out loud together, and we're ready to start talking about it. So here we go. We've got our Gettysburg Address in the middle. The first thing I'd like to talk about is the who. Who would be in the crowd that Lincoln is addressing? Well, one of the main themes of this speech that he talks about are the soldiers who have died in the war, in the Civil War. So we can imagine that some of the people there would be family members who have maybe lost a loved one in the Civil War, maybe some veterans of the Civil War, other politicians, people who are impacted by the Civil War. So let's use that as our who, because those are the people in the crowd that Lincoln is speaking to. So we're going to say that the who is the people who are affected by the Civil War, which was a very bloody war. Many, many people died, lots of disease, a terrible time in American history. And Lincoln no doubt knew that many people were very despondent about what was happening in the Civil War, and so I think he felt he needed to sort of lift spirits a little bit in remembering these men, which is also part of his address. And maybe that answers the question of what. What is this speech really about? I think when we really go back and look at it carefully, we can tell that it's about two primary things. One, because he begins by saying 77 years ago, goes back to the founding of America and says our forefathers built this nation on the idea of freedom and liberty. So that's one idea. That's a what, that this is a country founded on certain principles. And the other what is that the men who died in the Civil War, in his opinion, the Union soldiers, died for that cause. So let's make that our what. That's our what. It's the ideals that America was founded on, and that the soldiers fought for. Okay. When? 1863. This is Civil War time. So now we have the where, and we know where that is. That's Gettysburg, which is where? Pennsylvania, not far from here. Major battle in the Civil War. Why? Why? This is the real key to everything. Because there are words that Lincoln says in the speech, but there's a message he's trying to convey. Always, anytime we're reading we're asking ourselves, what is it that the author is trying to tell us? Now, they tell us in the words that they say, but they also tell us in other ways. They infer things, they refer to other things, maybe other books that we've read, other classics in literature, maybe the Bible, Shakespeare. And there's also moments of figurative language where they help us to sort of see or visualize in our heads or feel very deeply what they're trying to convey. In this sense, there's a very powerful moment where Lincoln says in the speech that the men who died here gave their last full measure. That's a very powerful phrase, and I think that gets at the heart of what he's trying to say, that their dedication to the cause of liberty and freedom was so strong that they were willing to give their lives for it. And I really love that phrase, that they gave the last full measure. So let's say that in this instance, what Lincoln is trying to convey to us is the sense that these men, and he says these words too, did not die in vain. They died for a cause, and it was a worthy cause. So I think the why of what Lincoln's trying to get across is these soldiers, the Union soldiers in the Civil War, died for a worthy cause. So now you can see we've got our chart finished. We started with the Gettysburg Address, which had some difficult words, had some very long sentences, and was at times maybe a little bit confusing exactly about what Lincoln was trying to say. So what we decided to do is we put our Gettysburg Address in the middle, and then we decided, let's break it down amongst these individual things, and maybe it can help us clarify a little bit better what Lincoln was trying to say. We know when he delivered the speech at Gettysburg during the Civil War, we know who he was talking to now. We noticed that he was talking to people in the crowd that were there to witness this war memorial being dedicated, and we can infer from that that some of these people probably had lost someone they loved in the war. Maybe they already had a loved one still serving in the war. Maybe some of them were veterans, but no doubt they were affected by the Civil War. What comes a lot from how Lincoln begins his speech when he talks about the founding fathers founding the country on certain ideals, and that these soldiers were fighting to protect them. And why? Why would these soldiers do that? Well, in his words, they gave the last full measure because it was a worthy cause. So that these soldiers didn't die in vain, that they died for a cause, and that it was a worthy cause. So breaking it down like this, we can get a real sense of exactly what Lincoln was trying to convey to that crowd. So now here's the challenge I give to you. What I'd like to do is have everybody in the class partner up. You have a choice. On your iPads, you have 3 different speeches given at war memorials. You have George W. Bush speaking at the dedication to the World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C. You have Ronald Reagan giving his speech to the dedication of the Vietnam Veteran Memorial, which in my opinion is the best of the 3, and is a wonderful parallel to the Civil War because there was a lot of conflict of opinion about that war, much like there was for the Civil War, a lot of divisiveness in the country. Or President Obama's remarks during the dedication of the 9/11 Memorial in New York City. So what I'd like you to do, you can choose. I like to give you options. You and your partner can decide which one of those you would like to use. Then I want you to take, also on your iPad, scroll, and you'll see past your article choices, your speech choices, you'll see a blank one of these that you can fill out with your partner, and then we can get back together and discuss what we think the people who gave these speeches were really trying to convey to your audience. Okay, good luck everybody.